Hi. I'm skycat.live. What's up? It's 12/4/2023. That is a Monday, December 4th, 2023. And I hope you're having a wonderful day out there in your various different video game lands. And I am skycat.live, and today we will be playing some WoW Rogue, some EvE Online, and some FFXI like we do every day. And what other games I feel like playing? Rust, maybe. It is getting 19 days from Christmas here, which is good. I hope you guys are getting in the mood. A lot of good games came this year, and I'm really enjoying this whole experience. Without further ado, I'm just going to get to the gaming now. Don't have much to say. In terms of all the drama that I've been fucking monitoring, it's interesting to see Internet Historian not get canceled yet, which is good. It's interesting to see Gerard not get canceled yet, which is good, but I bet he will. That's the guy who had the Open Hands Golf charity. And in the world of video games, I'm playing Season of Discovery Day 3? Or no, Day 4, I think. Yeah, this is like Day 4 of Season of Discovery. So, on that note, I'm just going to get to the MMO grind here. Go from the big face to the small face and all this. Get some drones out and stuff too. There we go. And there we are. There we are. And, okay, we are mining. I'm going to back it up so I don't hear it. Then we are looting a mailbox on my bank. Just to pick up stuff that my main sent. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, look at all that. I don't even know if I have the room. I don't think I do. I will have to dump this mailbox like 3 times. That's all right. Yeah, you can't fit any more of that. All right, let's go sell it, and I'll buy bags. I don't know. I don't have any money. Oops. Well, that sort of sucks. We can remedy this, but it will take some time. We will do so. Yeah, what do I send this one? Like 50 silver? No, I don't even have that much. 5 silver? I think so. Send some nice, Oh, it's the fireplace? Yeah, it is. I don't understand why my FFXI is laggy all the time. Is Horizon on my D drive? Because that kind of sucks, and that might be the case. It should remain on the C drive. I don't think. Like, I don't know. It plays well when there isn't other games. It's I feel like the graphics are turned up too much with the paint. So let's go see what it's like to shut down the graphics a little bit. Because, yeah, that's not looking too good or performing too good in 3 games. With 3 games. So I'm just going to try and fix it. Alright, and then, yeah, there's nothing else that character can do till they have money, so just gonna let that go for now. There's, the loot isn't going anywhere. That's more stuff to sell, though.
The asteroid is depleted.
Send. And good. Now we're back down again. Today... It'll be a leveling rogue in the Undead Lands. There's a whole bunch of stuff up in there. And a whole bunch of stuff up in there, which is incidentally probably where I should be, unless there's anything lower. There. I should be up there for moss stalkers. They're lower. So, go up to there for now. I've noticed that it does color code, which is cool. Green is where you should go all the time. I'm starting to learn the system a little better. Let's go see what's going on in the world. YouTube. No, I want my channel and then home. Blizzard responds to Diablo 4 milking concerns. I don't like Bellular, or I would watch that. There's a Florida man documentary. Secret sex parties of the Dubai's mega rich. Uh-oh. Gaming in the 2000s, a video game documentary. Never buy this. 10 mistakes when buying land. That might be interesting. Let's watch that. Hello, Wayne Turner. I have subbed and liked to your channel. Thank you for the excellent content for my stream. I've liked to sub to your channel. And there we will put you in the box. Get in the box and talk for us.
Greatly. It's going to save you a whole lot of money, and most importantly, it's going to prevent a whole lot of stress. So listen, grab a pen and a piece of what I'm about to share with you will benefit you greatly. It's going to save you a whole lot of money, and most importantly, it's going to prevent a whole lot of stress. So listen, grab a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to want to take notes. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our channel. My name's Wayne Turner. For nearly 30 years, I've bought, flipped, built, done just about everything when it comes to real estate. So what I'm going to share with you and what I share with everyone on our channel here at The Real Wayne Turner, that's the real channel, is everything to do with real estate. Buying land, flipping houses, buying houses, whatever it may be. You're going to learn everything right here on this channel. And listen, if you know someone that's a real estate agent, please share this video with them. This will bring them valuable information. They will absolutely appreciate the fact that you shared this video with them, because this is very informative information. So let's jump in. Number one, you'll want to walk the land that you're looking to purchase. Walk that land, and don't just walk that land when it's sunny and beautiful outside. Walk that land before or after rain. Today it's an overcast day. It's raining outside. This is when you want to walk the property. You want to walk the boundaries. You want to know where it stops, where it begins, where it ends, how much road frontage.
Why
that's
raining?
The frontage that's actually on the road of the property. And you want to make sure, is there anything on the property that is not owned by the property owner selling you the property? Now, the second thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're not overpaying for whatever property it is you're looking to purchase. And how you do that is you got to get comparable sales. You got to find out, what if other pieces of property comparable to the one that you want to purchase, what have they sold for?
That's a
now,
good tip.
You do this in really two ways. One, you can look at comparable properties and have an agent, a real estate agent, pull those properties for you and show you what comparable properties have sold for. The second way you can do that is simply pay for an appraisal to have the property appraised. Now, that'll typically run you $300 to $400, but keep in mind, if you're getting a bank loan for the property, you typically have to put 10% down, but the banks are going to require that you have an appraisal on the property, because they want to make sure that the money that they're loaning you for that land, that the land is in fact worth it. Now, the third thing you'll want to do is get a survey on the property. Never buy a piece of property unless you have it surveyed. Now, keep in mind, the seller may have had it surveyed. They may have a recent recorded survey of the property that may be just 2 or 3 years old. You can use that. There's nothing wrong with that, but just be sure you walk the property, because you just never know what's going to be on the property. The survey is going to show you exactly where the property begins and ends. You see, every time they survey a piece of property, they take these big steel rods, they drive them at the corners of the property where the property actually meets its bound and takes a turn. It may be perfectly rectangled. I've seen them shaped just like a stop sign. But you'll want to make sure that that property is surveyed, and it's going to vary anywhere from $600 to into the thousands of dollars, depends on the size of the land and how much the surveyor has to trek through, stuff like that. Now, it's wet out here. I'm walking some property and it's wet, it's raining, but what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that the property that you're looking to purchase is not in a wetlands. And listen, the order that I'm telling you to do these things is the order that you should be doing it to save you money. You want to walk the property, you want to make sure the value's there, you want to make sure it's not in a wetlands, it's not in a flood area, and you do that by simply doing research. You have to do your own research. But FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, they post those things on their website, so you can go and look at that specific property, and it will tell you whether or not it's in a wetlands area and even the flood zone of the actual property that you're looking to purchase. So checking for wetlands was number 4. Number 5 is you want to make sure that the property's not in a flood zone. So you can do that by looking at the survey. You can also do that by getting a flood elevation certificate. So a flood elevation certificate will tell you the flood zone of the property. There's typically A, B, C, and X flood zones. A is the worst, B is the second worst, C is the better, and X is pretty much the best in terms of being in a flood zone. If the property's not in a flood zone, it's going to state
What was
it's
that?
in
You
a
just
flood zone.
took
If
me
it's
out of
in a flood
combat for
zone, it's
whatever
gonna state
fucking reason.
It's A, B, C flood zones. You have to determine whether or not the property's worth it to you to purchase that property if it's in a flood zone. Number 6 is restrictions, deed restrictions. A lot of people don't realize that if you purchase a piece of land,
Why are you
you're
dropping
restricted on
fucking
what you can
combats?
do, what you can put, what you can place.
Oh,
whether or not
because
can
you
put a
changed gear.
single-family
Oh, you
home,
changed gear.
whether or not you could build a barndominium, how big the house has to be or can be. There's loads of restrictions and what they call it the restrictive covenants, the deed restrictions, if you will, on a property. They may say you can have horses, you can have cows, but you can't have pigs and chickens. All of that is written in there, so you'll want to make sure you get a copy of that. That's public record. You can get it at the Register of Deeds office, anywhere in your parish or county across the United States. Number 7 is, will the property perk? Is it on city sewer, or do you have to put a septic system in? Do you have to put a treatment plant, or can you put just a old-fashioned traditional septic system? Most places now require what they call treatment plant to be put in on that property, but you have to know that. But keep in mind, some properties will not perk. That means that water will not absorb into the earth, that ground, and if it won't perk, then you can't put a septic system on the property. So the last thing you'll want to do is buy an acre of land, per se, and you can't even put a septic system on that property. And you may look and say, wow, that's a great price on that property. But if you can't build on it, and you can't put anything on it, and you can't live on it legally, what's it really worth? Number 8 is water. Does the property connect to city water, or will you have to put a well on a property? Now keep in mind, most properties you can put a well, but you have to understand, the more you have to dig through rock to hit water, and the farther you have to dig through rock to hit water, the more expensive it's going to cost you. We're here in southern Louisiana. When you're in the southern states, our water table's really high. So it doesn't take maybe $4,000 to $5,000 to dig a well. But if you're in other parts of the country where there's a lot of rock, like for say Tennessee, it can run you $20,000 to put a well in. Now number 9 is talk to the neighbors, and that's something that you can do early on or in the middle of the process. It really just depends on yourself. You got to kind of play it by ear and kind of catch them out on the weekends, but you'll want to ask the neighbors what they think about the property. Would they buy the property again? Are they looking to sell the property? Do they know anything about the property that you're looking to purchase? You'd be surprised how much information you can get just from talking to neighbors. So look, number 10 is the title policy. Do not buy a piece of property without a title policy. The title policy is going to cover you and the land on the property. That way no one's going to come knocking on your door, come walking on your land and say, hey, you owe me money because I did work on that property. The purpose of the title policy is the closing attorney will do research and make sure that there's no back taxes, liens, encumbrances, or anything on that property that's connected or attached to that property. That way, when you close on the property, no one's going to come after you or looking for you or say you owe them money. You're covered under the title policy. And it's not just you. They do research to find out as far as they can. They do as much research as they can because they're insuring you. They're basically giving you an insurance policy to say that property is free and clear of taxes, liens, encumbrances, and no one's going to come banging on your door. It's covered. It's very inexpensive to purchase this, and it covers you and your property for the life that you own it. You don't pay a monthly premium. It's a one-time fee, and it covers your property for the length of the time that you own it. So there you have it. It's pretty simple. Those are the 10 things that you'll want to know. I hope you wrote those down. If not, go back and watch the video again. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so, because my ultimate goal is to get as much information as I can with people just like yourself so you can make the best informed decision when it comes to real estate.
It went so quick and they distracted me so much I missed most of that. It was good though. Thank you, Insider Spot, for the excellent content from my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel. YouTube took a shit, so I'm reloading.
And how to start them. Did you know that money can work for you even while you sleep? Yes, you heard that right. In this video, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of passive income. We'll unlock 8 incredible passive income ideas that can potentially turbocharge your financial freedom. From the time-tested method of dividend stock investing to the digital age opportunity of creating online courses, we have got it all covered. Wondering why you should stick around? Well, generating a passive income can be your ticket to financial independence, allowing you to earn money around the clock, 365 days a year, with a set-it-and-forget-it approach. So buckle up, and let's start your journey towards building a smarter, more efficient income stream. Number 1. Dividend stock investing. Investing in dividend-paying stocks is a traditional way to generate passive income. As a shareholder, you're entitled to a share of the company's profits, which are usually distributed in the form of dividends. The dividend yield, which is the annual dividend payment divided by the stock's price, can serve as a steady income stream, especially if you invest in companies with a reliable dividend payout history. It's also crucial to look at the overall health of the company, its competitive position in the industry, and its growth prospects. By carefully selecting such companies, you can build a portfolio that provides regular dividend income. Furthermore, remember that investing in dividend stocks also offers the potential for capital appreciation. While the dividends provide an ongoing income stream, the increase in the stock's price over time can result in substantial profits when you sell the stock. This dual potential for income and growth is what makes dividend stock investing a compelling strategy for many investors. However, investing in the stock market comes with its share of risks, and it's essential to thoroughly research each investment or seek advice from financial professionals. Number 2. Real estate investment. Real estate has long been recognized as a solid investment avenue that can generate significant passive income. Owning rental properties, for instance, provides a regular income stream from rent payments. Additionally, real estate tends to appreciate over time, which means the property could be worth more in the future than what you paid for it. This potential for both ongoing income and capital appreciation makes real estate a popular choice for many investors. But investing in real estate also requires careful planning and management. For rental properties, there are responsibilities such as maintenance, dealing with tenants, and understanding landlord-tenant laws. Alternatively, you can invest in real estate investment trusts, or REITs, which are companies that own and often operate income-producing real estate. By investing in REITs, you can earn a share of the income produced without having to own or manage properties yourself. Whether you're investing directly in properties or in REITs, it's essential to conduct thorough market research, understand the risks, and potentially seek advice from real estate professionals. Number 3. Peer-to-peer lending. Peer-to-peer, or P2P lending platforms have emerged as a novel way to earn passive income. These platforms connect borrowers with investors, limiting the need for traditional banking intermediaries. As an investor, you can fund loans and earn income from the interest payments. This direct connection can result in higher returns than traditional savings or deposit accounts. Furthermore, many P2P platforms allow you to diversify your investment across multiple loans, reducing the risk associated with a single loan. However, investing in P2P lending comes with its unique set of risks. For instance, there's the risk of borrower default. Unlike bank deposits, P2P loans are not insured, meaning you could lose your investment if the borrower fails to repay the loan. Therefore, it's critical to diversify your investments across a variety of loans and to only use a portion of your investable assets for P2P lending. Several P2P platforms offer tools to help diversify your portfolio and manage risk, and it's advisable to utilize these resources. Number 4. Starting a blog or YouTube channel. Starting a blog or YouTube channel is another viable route to generating passive income. You can earn money through advertising revenue, sponsorships, and affiliate marketing. Furthermore, as your following grows, so does your income potential. For instance, once you've built a significant
Love how this guy's like suggesting you become famous. He's like, you'll have passive income if you become famous. I didn't like the likelihood of somebody, even like me, somebody like me becoming famous is so low. It's so low. It happens, but it's usually like a freak occurrence. Any fucking celebrity will tell you it's almost always like a freak occurrence. Something lucky happened, or just some role came their way, and the role of lifetime came their way, or something. It's just kind of funny. And like for instance, Mark Hamill, I wouldn't say was the most amazing actor, but he definitely got the role of a lifetime. He got lucky there, and he never had to worry about ever doing another role again. You know. All he had to do was cocaine and have sex with women in Hollywood for the rest of his life. That's an example of how Mark Hamill had never been in a movie before. He was cast. They liked his face. That was the first lucky thing. Second lucky thing was how successful that role was. He never, ever had to do another role again, except for, again, Star Wars at the end of his life. He did do the Joker on the Batman animated series and stuff. He did work, but he didn't need to. And that's an example of how, like the likelihood of that happening to somebody is quite literally 1 in 7 billion. It only ever happened to one person. And that's the path that this guy is it's so irresponsible because he's uncreative and he doesn't know how to tell us to be like financially self-reliant and stuff with investments and all this. So he suggests that you do what he did, which is become slightly, well, I wouldn't say famous, but you know, you can see he's not that famous. It's kind of funny. And he has some subs and people like him, but like, you know, you can tell I have more subs than this guy. And his suggestion is to, or no, I don't. Well, yeah, I do. I have a lot more subs than this guy if you include Twitch. But I don't have like, you know, as much YouTube presence as him because it's very hard to get off the ground. And I'm not doing clickbait like him. I'm actually dumping like 12 hours of quote unquote content every day. And I haven't been doing that for that long either. So, you know, eventually I imagine I probably will get some subs and follows and stuff. Are we running from this guy or what? What the fuck are we doing here? Kid him. Oh, he's like abusing the fence. I see. I thought he was in trouble for a second. This guy might definitely be in trouble. Yeah, let's just go help him. No, he doesn't need it. He's good. I'll help him, though.
The asteroid is depleted.
There's a glutton. I guess that's what I need here. Yep. And so his suggestion is to get essentially famous, which is like the most terrible fucking financial advice I've ever fucking heard. And yet they're just glibly doing it and telling themselves, oh, it's such good advice, they should kiss my ass for this. I gave them such good tools and all this stuff. You can tell they're self-congratulating. Your suggestion for making money is to A, drop videos on YouTube that people watch over time and it just makes you passive income from like watching, and B, become famous, which is like in terms of financial advice, especially in terms of passive, that's the least passive thing I've ever heard of in terms of like a financial, like, you know, like I don't know, like a job, like in terms of a job, being a YouTube creator is like some of the hardest work you'll ever do. And like, I don't think that's just not passive income. How is being a YouTube creator passive income? You definitely do have to do the work. You definitely do. Especially if you want any kind of real hits. You have to make it interesting. You have to make it funny. You have to, like, you know, you like actually have to provide content like in live and in real time, like I'm doing right now. And then just saying like, go become a YouTube creator. Sure, it's a way to income, but how many YouTube creators actually make money on YouTube? I think it's like 1%. It's such terror. It's not 1%. It's like 4. I've heard it before. It's like 4% of people actually on YouTube like make money. So like, that's such terrible advice. It's like saying, go out on the streets and beg. And sure, sooner or later, probably people will give you money. But the amount of time and the amount of effort and the amount of just like work that you'd have to do that, to even beg on the corner, is kind of crazy. That is not passive income. YouTube is not passive income. Even clicking to put the videos on YouTube, I do it every day, is like 10 to 20 minutes of work every single day. If you want to have any kind of following at all, it's at least half an hour work of every day. That is, now, like, to me, passive means, sure, you might have a lump of work at the beginning, but then you connect your PayPal account and you let it trickle in and you never worried about it again, and you streamline the process, like, and you pay someone to come check the coins at the coin op laundry or whatever, and you have somebody there working security and all this. That is what passive income actually is. This fucking idiot has no clue of what it actually is. And he's like, start a YouTube channel, which is like, to me, which I've done it, trust me, it's one of the most active things that I can think of. You got to watch like 400 400 fucking videos to even understand how to hit the play button on the fucking record on the OBS. And not like 100 videos. You have to watch like 5. And sure, you might be a tech savvy individual or whatever, but it's still like not passive income. It's not even like a lump of work before you reach passive income. You might not ever have any hits at all, which this sounds like a diss, but I don't mean it to be. Just, you might not have any more hits. Like, he's got more hits than me. He's got more subs. Like, you know, you might not be making any hits or subs at all, but I mean, like, and that's the thing. 162 subs does not even a dollar make. It does not even a dollar make. It's not, you will make no money off that. So, and you can sit like that. He probably will sit like that for years. And so, you know, using his own advice against his own example, and this is from 7 hours ago, he did get some views already. But I mean, like, you know, it's sort of weird. Like, and I'm one of them. It's a good clickbait title, but I don't know. Oops, so my tablet's on, is it? Yeah, I gotta turn the volume up. Sorry. I don't know if his own example is very good.
However, building a successful blog or YouTube channel is no small feat. It requires consistent content creation, a knack for marketing, and a deep understanding of your target audience.
Well, at least he said it, which is like the opposite of work. So yeah, it's the work up front, but it's not passive. If you want a fucking YouTube channel to be creative, you better get to posting like successful. You better get to posting every single fucking day. And it might suck, and you have to get over that hump pretty quick too, where you're like, I just posted a terrible day's worth of content that probably all it did is make me look bad. But it doesn't matter. You still have to do it. You still have to do it every day. It is like the least passive thing I can think of. For him to suggest it is disgusting on a video like this, and I'm going to drop the video. I'm going to unsub and unlike, which is uncommon for me. Yeah. And unlike. I dislike this in the end. And I'm sorry.
Share with you will benefit you greatly. It's going to save you a whole lot of money, and most importantly, it's going to
no, comma, no money down. No, comma, money down. No, comma, money down. Works on contingency, question mark? No, money down. This is always such a funny bit. Works on contingency, question mark? No, comma, money down. You said where you worked on contingency, no money down. Yeah, no. Yes, contingency. No, money down. Works on contingency? Let me fix that for you. Oh, this is a typo. Which is so funny. This was such a funny lawyer joke. I think this is hilarious. And so, yeah, how to buy land with no money down. How I see this is, can you buy land with no money down? Can you buy land with no money, comma, or a question mark? The answer is no, comma, money down. That's what it reads like.
Aggro.
Oh, what's this? Oh, Model Ward. Kill you. How dare you fuck with me in the middle of my fucking content. I shall waste you, Warg. You shall taste the sweet, 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 delectable wonder of the ground. Okay, so Lionel Hutz works on contingency? No. How to buy land with, can you buy land with no money down? No, comma, money down. This reminds me of this, works on contingency. This reminds me of this old Simpsons joke. This old Simpsons lawyer joke. Works on contingency. I made more better comment than his video. My comment is better my comment is better content than his video. It is.
You can buy a piece of land.
With no money down. Yeah, sure, I believe it, yeah.
The asteroid
Oh yeah, it
is
happens all the
depleted.
time. Yeah, very common. The clickbait. Even watching an old man clickbait is even more tragic, fucking tragically.
Pocket, this will change your mind. Imagine buying a piece of land and it costing you very little to no money out of pocket. That's what I'm about to share with you.
I don't
That's
believe
right.
it.
You can own a beautiful piece of property.
No,
like
you
the one I'm
can't.
standing on here.
Liar.
Absolutely cost you no money.
No, you can't.
No money. out
Yeah,
of
if your
pocket.
credit's
For
good.
those of you
Yeah.
who are new to my videos, my name's Wayne.
Are you
Turner.
saying that I slap down 250,000 cash normally, but this time around I don't because I have good credit and I just sign a fucking purchase and I pay credit? Is that what is I mean, what kind of clickbait do we have here?
Sold everything real estate for nearly 30 years. And listen, I don't say that to brag, just to share with you that the information that you're about to learn from me, and you'll learn from other videos, we'll put other links here, is factual information based on tried and true boots on the ground experience.
Boots on the ground,
If
huh?
you buy a piece of land with very little money out of pocket, you're still going to have a monthly payment.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and there you go. And and that defeats your fucking clickbait title, doesn't it? At that point I bail. And there you go. You still have to pay. And watching these people just lie to themselves and lie to the people, it's just disgusting. It's like, no, money down. It's hilarious. I knew where it was gonna go. Works on contingency? Question mark? No, comma, money down. And that's what this video is literally like. Oh, it turns out you do have monthly payments of $2,500. Yeah, you do. No, you do. Where do you get the $2,500 with? Which is the people that don't have the $2,500 like me. That's who came to click on your video. The 147,000 views. Yeah, is
home on that property. You can put a tiny home on that property. You can put a double wide home.
No,
on
you
that
can't. Not without a fucking well. No, you can't.
property that you purchase for no money out of.
No, you can't. Better get used to like hauling water to it and living like Ruby Ridge. No, you can't. No, you cannot do that. Get used to people coming on your property, maybe stealing your shit. Like, don't get used to it, but definitely have security, have a gun, have a dog, have dig a well. If you're buying a piece of property, you better have the money to dig a well, because where does the water come from? Does the city fucking like just run a pipeline out to your 1 acre that you bought or whatever for your tiny house? No. You better get used to hauling water and basically being a slave to yourself. It's not a good idea to do this. It is, and it isn't. It's essentially like you pay the same money on a fucking land payment as you do like a mortgage or a rent in the city. But you trade, and I know because I did this. I did what he's talking about. I did pretty much everything he's talking about. No, I mean, I didn't put any money down on the land. I'll inherit that, which I'm lucky. I'm talking about, like, I came out far away from a city because it's cheap, you know? And that's kind of what he's saying. And you better get used to hauling 20 to 30 gallons of water every month. Better get used to where your food's going to come from, where your power is going to come from. Are you going to pay for them to wire power out there? Or are you going to dig the well? Are you going to have them run piping out there? Or, I mean, like, have you considered what it might be like to essentially, to me, buying a piece of property without like a well, and there's no way you're getting a well on a no money down piece of land. That's just not happening. You do have the payments too on top of it. So pretty much everything you said was false. It is. Most of what you're saying is false. What you said about you will still have a payment was accurate.
Important to not put the wrong structure on that property. See, you could put a tiny home, you could put a single wide, you could put any kind of structure you want to on the property, but you got to make sure that you can finance that property. Even though you're purchasing this piece of land, no money out of pocket, no money down.
No money down. Show me where there's a market that says no money down. There's that like I challenge you to find a home for sale that says or land, or I'm sorry, I challenge you to find land that's no money down. I challenge you to do it. I'm sure it exists in some special cases and scenarios and stuff, but it gets snapped up by greedy fucking landlords and greedy fucking, real estate developers right quick, long before you ever get there. It is not this thing that you can just go hunting for. You might luck into it, but who the fuck says no money down? Nobody in this world. Nobody says, oh yeah, you can just move on the fucking land without paying $1, and I guess next month you can pay me something if you want. Nobody says this shit. No, I mean, this thing he's talking about does not exist. It exists, but it doesn't exist to the average layperson that watched his video. This is insider fucking real estate shit that you got to have like connections and an inside look in a database that you have access to, and all this other crap and all this insider info and work and money. It is not no money down. I really don't like that he put no money down on this title. Yeah, the opportunities are there, but I'd challenge you to find, these guys seem like idiots. I'd challenge you to find a fucking, like a piece of land that is no money down. He already said you must make payments. What no money down? There's no, this world is not free. You don't get to move on to the land and pay me next month. What is this, like fucking Popeye? That dude Blimpy from fucking Popeye. Move on to my land this month. I'll gladly pay you for a cheeseburger Thursday. I'll gladly pay you for a cheeseburger Thursday for a cheeseburger today. And then they made fun of this way back it's like a cartoon character talking right now to me. They used to make fun of this with cartoon characters. Lionel Hutz saying, no, money down and all this. Cartoon characters, basically. These guys are cartoon characters. No money down is like, in real estate especially, is this silly, silly concept that just does not exist. I challenge you to find it.
Aggro.
He mentioned already, yeah, you make payments and yeah, and so let's talk about that. What's money down on a fucking piece of land that you just bought? It's going to be like $2,500. I'm saying, I don't care about killing your fucking mob. I don't care about that. I don't care. Like you think it's funny. I think you're the fucking clown shoes.
So what I mean by that is you never...
I think everybody in your life laughs at you secretly. I think you make these secret little jokes where you have somebody kill your mob and you're like, I got over on that guy and all that. But no, you're a born loser sitting there hunched over a fucking cubicle. Girls won't talk to you and you act like an incel virgin like that. And you have somebody else kill your mob like a fucking jackass. Incredibly fucking rude. And I think you're the clown shoes. You're the joke. Yeah, I killed the mob and we can all laugh at me. But I'm not the one acting like a douchebag like that. You're the fucking clown shoes. And yeah, you think it's so funny as you walk away. Yeah. No, you're a fucking douchebag clown shoes. And I will have 40 times as much sex as you when it's all said and done.
Finance the property in full. That means that you buy the property and you're financing the land. No money out of pocket. But you've got to make sure that the structure you put on the land can be financed into one mortgage on that property. Now let's get into finding and buying this land for no money out of pocket. You find a piece of land that you like and you find the owner of that property and you basically just ask them, are they willing to sell that property? So look, there does not have to be a for sale sign on the property. Nowhere on the property does it have to be for sale in order for it to be sold. You just have to find out who owns the property, contact them, and ask them a simple question. Would you sell the property at the right price?
That is terrible advice. If you cold call somebody, they are going to think you're a fucking creep unless you've got some kind of interesting story to tell or something like that. If you just cold call somebody about their home out of the fucking, like out of the fucking blue, you are essentially like... I mean, I guess, yeah, you could be that forward, and I'm not saying it's bad advice, but it's not the kind of thing classy people do. They don't just reach out. I mean, I guess, yeah, you could have the lawyer make an inquiry. The lawyer could call and be like, I'm sorry to trouble you, sir. I am a lawyer representing blah, blah, and we are wondering if you are interested in selling your estate. I suppose that wouldn't insult anybody, but you yourself should not call. You should have a lawyer do that. You yourself should not call some private residence at their home and like harass them about selling their home. That is not a good fucking strategy that you should recommend to good people. It is the kind of thing a scumbag would do. I'm saying. Tell me I'm wrong.
The asteroid is depleted.
No, I'm not interested in selling it, or, yeah, we thought about it. What are you looking to give me for it? You'll get that. And then you may say, well, I don't really know what it's worth. What are you looking to get out of it? Teach you a little something in sales. Whoever speaks numbers first
is going to lose. Is the one who's going to. Yeah.
Now, maybe you're not into cards, but go with me here. Whoever speaks numbers first is typically the one that knows where to begin, that knows and is comfortable with that number. You see, you may spit out a number, a price, a figure that you're willing to pay for the land, and the seller goes, ooh, that's a lot more than I thought it was worth, or I would get from it, right? And then you also may have the seller give you a number, and you think as a buyer, wow, I would have gave more for that land. I'm really going to buy it now. Now, you know what they say. A piece of property or anything is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. And it's also only worth what a seller's willing to sell it for. You just got to come to a happy medium between all parties. And at the end of the day, if you can get a piece of property for little to no money out of pocket.
For little to no money out of pocket, you have committed you have found the miracle. You have found a miracle. Because it doesn't exist. What he's talking about does not exist. Any intelligent fucking person, especially with friends who are friends with people in real estate and all this. I am friends with, like, my best friend is a real estate agent. I listened to him talk about real estate for years. Like what he's talking about doesn't exist. I would say it, but it's kind of mean. These guys are desperate. Yeah, man, I'm out of throwing ammo and it's annoying. Stupid WoW. Go do some stupid MMORPG fucking like I don't know. I guess I could Hearth. Where is my thing? It's Undercity. I suppose I could go back there and sell. Just fly back. It's actually faster, I believe. There's where all those mobs are finally. I didn't know where this was, so now I'll come here next, but let's go back to Undercity, yeah, I think. And right now, God, these go so quick.
Share with you will benefit you greatly.
Off-grid living is a lie. Yeah, I was like, yeah, honestly, I think it kind of is. We watched this one recently. It's kind of a lie. The amount of work it takes to do is this full-time fucking job that's essentially you switched up the comfort of a city and the comfort of a dating scene and the comfort of a fucking, like a work scene and a comfort of a Safeway and a liquor store and a gun store and, a marijuana store and all this for basically the side of a rural area. A 20 to 30 to maybe hour-long drive every time you want to do something. You have to have a well. You have to have solar. You have to have safety. You have to have security. and all this stuff, and I would have rewatched this one because it's kind of funny. And the work ethic is like you're basically a farmer, and in my experience, most of the people that want to go off the grid are actually incredibly fucking lazy. And at that point, you better be ready to live the life of a farmer. You have to haul your own water. You have to, like I do that. You have to dump your own toilets. You've got to, you've got to like do all this stuff. If you got a tiny house, you've got to keep it clean. You got to keep it really clean. You got to, I mean, like, it's kind of funny. It's sort of like you give up all the comfort of the city so you can go be a slave to your life somewhere else. And that's what he's going to tell you. And that's sort of how I feel about it too. Now, I think it's cool when people go off the grid, but I'm saying like how they advertise it on YouTube to all the other suckers to try and sell it and get hits and follows and all this is kind of misleading with how much actual work it is. I wouldn't really suggest it to the average person. I really wouldn't. Most of them, I think, just think it's like kind of like working like a 9-to-5 job, but no, it's more than that. You might wake up in the winter and your power's gone, and then you can't work for 4 days, and then you can't eat because you can't work. I mean, it's stuff like that I'm not so sure they're aware of it. How weird it can be. It's interesting. When I first came here, I didn't have power for 9 days. I mean, but that was for a different reason. But that's an example of how it put me down for 2 weeks. I couldn't start working for the first like 14 days that I was here. That pissed me off. I was like, Jesus Christ, man! I came here raring, chomping, raring, getting ready to go. And inside of 2 weeks it took me to actually get up with like dependable internet and power and all this. And that's just because I live 25 minutes from the closest town. Essentially, we had power and water, thank God, but like it's because somebody bothered to wire it out here, and it's because people live out here. So just be aware. If you think you're gonna like just suddenly produce a whole bunch of gallons of waters out of your ass and a whole bunch of power and a whole bunch of time and effort and food and just to survive, yeah, take that off the grid route. But I mean, it's kind of a lie to say that it's easy. It's this fucking full-time job. And honestly, the money that it takes is also something. I think you should be maybe not independently wealthy, but you should definitely think I think you should have like 6 figures sitting there in the bank before you attempt to do it. Because it's expensive too. It's not cheap to go off the grid. It's all kinds of solar and water and.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Dave Whipple, and you're watching Bush Radical.
What's up, Bush Radical? Thank you for the excellent content from my stream. I've watched this entire video before. Forgot to sub. I've changed this now. 100,000 people like this video, and I think it's about right because probably about 100,000 of us actually are living off the grid. I mean, I'm off the grid technically. I have a router, but I don't think they could ever detect me through it. And so, I have solar, but it doesn't run all of my power needs. It's only an emergency setup. I am on the grid. So, I mean, I am not off grid, but I mean, I live 25 minutes from the closest town, like literally a 25-minute drive. So, you could call that off grid to me because it's not like if I call the cops, it's going to be 20 minutes before they arrive, 30 something. If I call an ambulance, it'll be the same. If I call a cab, it's half an hour. Seriously, it's not the same. It's not off grid. It's definitely on grid, but it's off grid in its sensibilities, in its execution. You are essentially living off grid if you're 30 minutes from the closest town or more. I know because I have friends who came up in Durango. I'm sorry, that's a city in Colorado, Durango, Colorado and shit. I know people came up like this. People in Bailey, Colorado, people like that. People out there I lived in Erie, Colorado for like a year with my ex. That shit is like literally, it was like so windy in the home that we lived in because we were out in this fucking plain, like 20 minutes from the closest Walmart, and it was essentially living off grid. People could kill you out there. Nobody would ever know, Now, you aren't out there without a gun and security and people and neighbors and family and people checking on you and shit. And my parents really liked that I lived out here. with them, because they're always worried that something might happen when they're off the grid like this, and that there's nobody to look out for them. If there's ever like for instance, my mother last year, she hurt her knee. She fell, and I was up there in that house inside of, she was so proud. I was up inside of, I was up there in that house, like crouched next to her inside of like, I don't know, 2.5 minutes, something. I ran like, whatever it is, like 50 meters or whatever it is. It's like 75 meters. I ran at full speed, and I was crouched next to her inside of like 2.5 minutes. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to live where I live, is because I'm willing to run to them. They're off grid. I'm willing to come to them immediately, throw them in the car, get them to 911, get them to a hospital, something like that. I'm there to watch out for them while they're off the grid. And trust me, it is a lot of work. When one of the ways that I actually really hurt their feelings last year is I was missing the phone calls. When they would call, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a new streamer, and I thought I could just excuse it away because of my headphones and all this, right? I was like, oh, my headphones, I'm sorry, I gotta do this is my new job, and I can't let it go. But what I was really doing is like basically violating a covenant where they let me come live on their land, but I wasn't really looking out for them and their off-grid sensibilities and stuff. They're like off-grid, I mean, they're on the grid, but they're not really. And they live with their own security, and they live with their own vehicles, and they live with their own food, and they live with, like, they grow food all winter, or sorry, all summer, so that during the winter they have it like in their freezers and stuff. My mother literally spends like 2 months a year canning food. And this is because that's the kind of work that it takes to live off grid. If you want to live in rural areas, they're going to fuck you at the grocery stores. This is something that you want to talk about living off grid. I can tell you something. If you live in the rural area and you think you're off grid, try going to the Walmart and tell me how cheap it is to buy a fucking meal. It's not going to be. The grocery stores in this town are not cheap. They're not. They're like Whole Foods in the normal city. It's like $7 for a loaf of bread. It's not cheap. Living in a rural area, I can dispel all these fucking notions about it. I know, because I used to call this place Short Busland to remind myself that I didn't want to do off-grid rural living. It's essentially Short Busland. Everything's retarded. Everything takes half an hour. Everything. You can't go get your mail without walking to the mailbox for 10 or 15 minutes. It's like Short Busland to me, because I'm a city boy, and everything takes half an hour to an hour. If you want to go see a doctor, that's going to take at least 4 hours, because you have a half an hour drive each way. They live in a rural area, so they move slower. Like, trust me, it's just crazy. It's like, and understand, off-grid is not really off-grid. It's not really off-grid. The minute that you show signs that you have water and power, you will have a police officer come in the rural county, come and inspect you. That is something that you will not be able to get around, especially if you're in a vehicle. If you're in a vehicle, you will be inspected. They will come through. They will make sure that you're not fucking Breaking Bad, not trying to sling meth, or I'm sorry, cook meth, that you're not some fucking bullshit Sylvester Stallone hippie like the beginning of Rambo, and they want to see if you want to shoot out with Brian Dennehy or whatever. They want to see if you're a nut, right? And they're gonna check on you. The neighbors will require the cops to do it. And they're gonna come check on you. They're gonna ask you where you got your food and your money from. They're going to ask you where, like, literally, they're going to ask you, like, are you paying taxes? Do you have a job? They're going to ask you weird questions like this. And if you can't answer yes, because you're off the grid and you're crazy or whatever, you better say YouTube star like me or whatever, because otherwise, like, they're going to ask questions that you can't answer necessarily. And at that point, they're going to be like, no, you can't be here. It's like that. And if you own the land, they'll never say that. But if you own the land, you're going to have a well, or have them, or be beyond the grid. You're either on the grid because of the power and the water, or you're off it because of the solar and the fucking well. So when you buy that property at no money down, Mr. Douchebag Clickbait there says no money down on a piece of nice 6-7 figure piece of property. Yeah, right. What fucking world do you live in? I got some swamp land in Florida, if you believe him on that. And so, like, and then, and I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. I have friends who have bought land before, and I've sat there with them while they did it. And I'm not fucking stupid. Like, I've watched them plan through it. I know that there's no such thing as a piece of property with no money down. That's not going to happen. So, yeah. So, it's funny. I know a lot about this because my friends were fucking real estate agents, and my friends bought property, all of them, and I watched them do it. So understand that I watch them buy guns, I watch them buy cars, I watch them buy property. I sat there in the room with them sometimes because they know I'm intelligent and I'm liable to catch something if something's wrong. Like literally, I was a good friend for a long time. And this guy's being like a good Samaritan by warning the world that your off-grid fantasy might be a lie, because he's actually done it, and he's going to show you in this video what amount of work it actually takes. Once or twice a month I've got to make a trip to town, and in that time I've got to load up, I've got to shop for 6 or 8 hours. If I didn't have water and piping coming out here, I would have had to dump $30,000 to dig a well and run the pipes to it and run the toilets and all this other shit. You better have your shit insulated. That's expensive. You must have it renovated and painted and ready to show the signs of age. If it's a crappy tiny home like the one that I'm living in that's only worth like $30,000 to $50,000, you're gonna have problems with mold depending on where you live, especially in the winter. So that's an issue. Like, just wonder, like, do you think, like, if you're lazy living in a city, working a 9 to 5, dreaming of going off grid and doing like van life or whatever the fuck, do you have that work ethic in the city? Could you be homeless in the city and take care of yourself by dumpster diving all the time and going out and hustling and making sure you have a meal and a bed every night? Do you have that kind of strength? Because that's kind of what off-grid living is like. It's kind of like homeless living. You got to worry about where your fucking your next, like, you know, where your bed's going to be that night, where the meals are going to come from. If you're an alcoholic, where's the liquor coming from? Will you go get food from the food stamps or the food stamp or from the food bank, or do you actually have money? The whole thing is a lot of work. It's a lot more work than paying rent and living 9 to 5 in the city. It's a lot more work. I know, because I do it. Every day I get up and I check and take care of my toilets. I check and take care of my water. It looks like I'm some fat ass who just sits there on stream all day, but no, I have a real life too. And like fucking, I do all this stuff. I go and check and dump my water. I make sure my sink and my shower tank underneath my trailer is dumped. Like, I go outside and I look at what the weather is that day, because if it's a bad storm, that might affect me. I mean, I might not be able to get back up to the house if there's like sleet and snow and hail on the steep incline. It's very difficult to climb the mud, and that's the kind of stuff that you don't think about when you're going off grid, but you should. If you don't have a dog or people or guns to protect you, what happens if some asshole junkie does come to your door? What happens? You know what I'm saying? I've got guns and property and dogs and stuff, and so I'm not scared of some stream sniper coming to my door, because he's going to face dogs and guns long before that. So, you know, understand, I wouldn't feel so safe if I didn't have that kind of luxury. So
on television or on YouTube,
when someone comes to our property, our neighbors observe it most of the time. We have elderly neighbors. If somebody were to come to the front of our property and stuff and act weird and get out of the car in a car that they don't recognize and shit, and this is true of most of the world too, the neighbors will call us. It's kind of funny. So it's like, and that's the sort of shit, that's the sort of security you need as a fucking tiny home living out there on some fucking parcel of land out in the middle of fucking nowhere. You better have dogs and guns. You know, you better have a wife or something to look out for you if you're sick. Yeah, I mean, there's all this shit that, you know, or whatever, a husband or whatever you're into. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you better have that shit. You better have that. We have that. We have 3 cars, specifically because if one breaks down, how do you get to town? And I don't like having 3 cars, and yeah, 2 of them fucking sit there. And we don't like it either, and the insurance not cheap, and nobody likes that. But we do that because if 1 or 2 of those cars go down, how the fuck do you get to town to eat? It's not like the cops or, you know, or anybody's going to come help you. Your friends might come help you, but if you're elderly, maybe your friends are elderly, like my parents. Maybe their friends are elderly, and they don't have the time to come fucking haul food to your house unless it's like a straight up minor emergency, or, you know, like minor straight up like emergency. They're not going to do that shit. They don't have time. They've got lives. They're old, and they've got kids and stuff to take care of in their own lives. It's like people don't want to bail you out. Like when you're 20, like when you're 24, people want to bail you out. When you're 40 and you're living off the grid, people don't want to bail you out. Like, you know, if you go out sailing on your own in the middle of the ocean, Nobody wants to bail you out. They're going to charge you a lot of money if you get into a problem. It's this reality about off-grid that a lot of people just think, oh, I'm strong and I'm a innovative person. I'm engineer, you know, I have a lot of ingenuity and I'm a strong personality or whatever. Sure, I believe in you. Like Christopher McCandless, I believe in your ability to go out and live on the off the grid and as a tramp. I think anybody can do it. But the difference is Christopher fucking McCandless died. And I'm not mocking his ass. I mean, I am kind of. I mean, I mock people who didn't make it, sort of, and when their main game is survival, because you could have done better. You shouldn't have been 3 miles from the closest person. You shouldn't have done that. That is irresponsible in the modern age, especially if you're a tramp. Being a tramp is about other people. It's not about you. It's about looking out for other people. You're gonna get a friend real quick if you're homeless. I got friends real quick, real fucking quick. I'm talking like day one. I have friends being homeless because you can't do it alone, and that's the fantasy from the lone wolf who wants to go out and fuck up the world the world has to come save them because they're Christopher McCandless or whatever, and they go tramp style out to some dead school bus and die 3 miles from a gas station. It's a little ridiculous. I'm sorry, but someone should dispel the myth of off-grid living, and I know because I do the work every single day for what is essentially off-grid. I mean, we got Comcast, we got Excel or whatever, whoever the fuck does power out here. Can't remember who does power, you know, because I don't really live here. I mean, I live here, but I don't pay the bills yet. So I don't know what the power company that my parents is using, but like, I know that, like, you know, I know that we're on grid, but everything else is off grid. No one's looking out for us in terms of trips to the town, food, water, shelter, heat. That's all stuff we have to worry about ourselves. Storage. That's what off-grid actually is. And in my experience, most of the kids living in a city who dream of going off-grid, they don't have the work ethic. They haven't been homeless. They haven't had to take care of themselves. They always had like a running toilet, and they always had a running water kitchen, and, you know, microwaves and ovens and all that shit. I had that shit too, and so does my parents. But that's because we had the money to pay for it. You know, we worked. Off the grid is not this like, oh, I'm going to buy a tiny house and just live in it for free and never work and just be a YouTube star or whatever. It's not like that. Where does the water come from? Where does the food come from? Where does the security come from? Where does the gasoline come from? Where does the work come from? Where does the dog come from? Where does the fucking guns come from? Where you will be robbed. What happens when it happens? You know what I'm saying? It's like that.
And people have brand new trucks and they have giant homesteads way out in the mountains. They're
like within 50 meters or 5 feet, there is 3 firearms, 2 nail guns, 3 dogs, 5 neighbors who can see the 50 meters, who literally can see my front door, and all this shit, who live rural, who will fucking do something, you know, and like, you better have all that, or you will be taken advantage of by the system, by the other squatters, by the other fucking tiny house people, by the people selling stuff to tiny house people. There's all like, you're just gonna be you're gonna there's predators out there looking for suckers who believe that the dream of off-grid living is entirely possible to anyone. It's not entirely possible to anyone. You must have extremely strong work ethic. You must have money. You must have backup. You must have people looking out for you. You must have communications, security, all that shit. It's all there. If you don't, if you have a vulnerability, someone will use it.
materials with helicopters, man, you name it. I've seen the craziest stuff.
Yep.
So what are you supposed to actually believe? In this video, I want to show you.
I like this video more than I admitted to care to admit the first time I watched it, because it felt kind of rural and hickish to me a little bit. But it's rural and hickish in a very like sort of liberal, protect the masses sort of way. I think it's the conservatives who would look to charge you so much money at REI, or all your dry goods, or your food at the Safeway, or the, you know, all the stuff that the off-grid people have to buy. It's choked by conservatives who have upsold it. Or who have upsold it. And not just conservatives, everybody. Everybody has upsold anything that has anything to do with off-the-grid living. They've upsold it, meaning they've raised the prices.
Get started living off grid, why we did it, what our thoughts were, and what it actually looks like.
Yeah, what it actually looks like in reality is work that me as a gamer who grew up in the city, really, it took me at least, I think, 2 years to even begin to. I've been doing it now for it's been 5.5 years, I think, and it took me 3.5 years to get used to it. And I was very unhappy with it the first 3 years. I was like, Jesus Christ, short bustling sucks dick. You can't meet a girl. You can't get drunk without paying fucking $50 for a bottle. You can't fucking get cigarettes for less than $11. You can't fucking, you can't go, you can't go get internet. And if you can, it's going to be double the money you're used to. If you get it, the service isn't as good as the city is. If you get the power, it's weird. I had a fluke with Comcast out here for some reason. Comcast where I live, and I can't say where it is, but I mean Comcast where I live, I think is the best in the world for some reason. It's better than I've ever heard anybody ever have for basic customer access. It's like 1.8 gigs for the average customer paying $80 a month, which is so much faster than anybody I've ever heard of in the country. And it's just by fluke, it's like that out here for some reason. It's definitely like an addition to my life. Like through the VPN, I'm still getting, I'm living rural, but through the VPN, and I love this. It's like the best thing about where I live. It absolutely is. Like if I go do the speed test, this is something you won't have. I guarantee it. 99.99 times out of 100, I lucked out, and for some reason, the Comcast out here in rural, for some reason, 30 minutes from the closest town, is absolutely, really fucking verifiably good. Even through the VPN, it's 500 megabytes. It's super fucking good. It's like, now this is not super good compared to the city, but it is through a VPN. It's 30 megabytes upload outside of a city. It's something that just doesn't happen, and you won't have that. So if you're a streamer, and you want to be a streamer living off fucking grid like me, and you're trying to live the American dream after the American dream died or whatever, the first thing you got to think about is, are the amenities out there the same as what I'm used to in the city? And the answer is absolutely, unequivocally no. You better get used to septic tanks. You better get used to paying for propane. You better get used to hauling water. You better get used to like non-potable water. There's all these other things that you bathe in but you don't drink. There's all these other things that you might deal with in rural that you're just not thinking about, that's going to cost you money that you can't plan for because you just don't have the knowledge to do it. The only reason I felt comfortable doing it is my stepdad had done it for 30 years. So he taught me. When we bought this place, we looked into it knowing that he had lived by all intents and purposes, basically, except for the bills leading to the internet and the water here, that he was off grid. He's off grid. He's got his own guns, got his own dogs and cats and all this shit. Because another thing about rural living off the grid, better get used to the mice. And you better have cats for the mice. You will have mice. You will have mold. You will have mice. You will have all kinds of problems. It doesn't matter where the fuck you live. You will have mold. You will have mice. And you must address that. You must have cats. If you have cats, are you going to pay for their food? If you're paying for their food, do you have enough money to pay for your food? And these are all questions that you must answer. You know what I'm saying? You must answer these questions. How do you deal with the mice? Otherwise, you will eventually lose your trailer to mouse turds and bullshit, like what happened at Asmongold's house. That's what happens when a lazy person does not take care of their home. And I don't take a lot of care of my home, but I pay a person to do it. I pay a person to take care of my home cleaning wise, and all the other chores I do, like water, toilets, power, solar, upkeep. My stepfather helps with some of that stuff because he's more skilled at it than me. But you better have somebody who knows how to do that shit. You better have somebody who knows how to do the wiring, especially, or knows what to do if you have a problem. Because otherwise, is your scrub ass, I've got to YouTube it but never actually have done it before, ass gonna just walk your way through that problem? Do you freeze to death while you try to walk your way through that problem because your internet went out, because your power went out, and then you can't consult the internet because you live in the rural area and you can't figure out how to get the power back on because your cell phone and your power is off? Do you starve to death then? Do you walk to town? Do you drive to town? There's all these things that Christopher McCandless should have been thinking about, that his student, that everyone wanted to say he was a genius and he was a good person and all this crap. Sure, he was a good person and sure, he was smart or whatever, but did he really think about that stuff when it came down to it? The answer is no. No, he did not. Does he know how to shoot a gun? I don't believe so. Did he know how to shoot a gun? No. And that's that thing. You shouldn't go walking around rural areas acting like you grew up in rural your whole life. I mean, you better grow up in the mountains like me. You better have done some camping and shooting some guns and all this stuff. Be get used to how to filter water if you're in an emergency. I've used so many water filters in my life. Have you ever used a water filter in your life before? I've used many water filters in my life. I've used many different firearms. I know a lot about dogs. I can help them birth litters of dogs and cats. It's a skill that I have. I know a lot about survival. It's one of the reasons why I was a Rust player. I'm a survivalist person. Lived on the streets of a major city for a long time without paying any money because I am a survivalist person. If you don't have those skills, don't try and do this off-grid living. Don't try and do it. You don't have the backup. You don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the people. You don't have the security experience. You don't have the fucking problems. You don't have the experience with the problems. You've never had the problems before. You don't even have the problems till they happen, so you don't know what to plan for until they do. And short bustling, trust me, is really scary. That was like the word that I used for it. When I was living rural the first time for like 3.5 years, I severely disliked it. I called it short bustling, and I hated it. You know, hated it. I hated it like I hated raping Nazis. I hated it. I was like, why would you ever live like this? It's constant problems, constant upkeep, constant issues. Got to drive half an hour every time you want anything at all, and all these other problems, you know, that actually do add up to an hour of commute every day just to go to a Safeway. It's like a job, right? When you've got to drive an hour, like my mother does, every day to go to like Walmart and Costco just to make sure that the chores and the upkeep of the house of 3 people is taken care of, it is a fucking bitch. It is a bitch and a half of a task. It's like literally like the kind of work that you just don't want to do. Thank God she's willing to do it. Do all that shopping for 3 people and do a half an hour to every time you want to go to the store. I love my mother. She's a fucking saint. She deals with the fucking, she's like that lady from Duck Dynasty before they had money. She's cooking all the meals for the family. She's like taking care of the fucking grocery shopping. She's doing all the laundry and all this shit. Do you do all that if you're living full time off the grid? You fucking better, because if you don't have some person like her who takes pleasure in doing that shit, I mean, I wouldn't say she takes total pleasure in it, but she likes taking care of a family. That's something she gets a lot of enrichment from, and she tells us all the time. I'm like, I tell her all the time, I'll go on down to the laundromat. You know, you don't have to do my laundry. I tell her all the time, every time I give it to her. She's like, nope, I want to do it. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I like saving the money and I like doing it. And I'm like, all right, because I will go sit at that laundromat. I will drive half an hour to the closest fucking laundromat, and I will sit there and I will pump $24 into machines to run 3 or 4 loads of laundry to get a month's worth of laundry done in one sitting. And she's like, nope, we're gonna save the $25. We're gonna save on the water, we're gonna save on the gas, I'm gonna do all the work, you're gonna bring it to me, you're gonna do it halfway and bring it to me and all this. And she's like, no, I like doing the labor. And if you don't have somebody like that, you better be doing it yourself, because if you don't have laundry being done, guess what happens? You get mice chewing out the crotches of your pants, you get mold problems, you get stink problems, women won't be with you, women won't come in the house. If you don't do your laundry, you're gonna have a bad time, especially if you're living off the grid and rural. If you're living off the grid and rural, better get used to like fucking washing your clothes in the fucking sink or something, because otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. You will have mold and rot and problems and decay, all that stuff, and rust, that upkeep that you have to do. You have to experience that in real life too. Like every time in my rural off-grid living, every time I use a faucet, every time I use a light switch, I think about how long until that light switch breaks, how long until that faucet breaks, how long till I have mold problems, how long till a leak occurs, how long till I run out of propane. All these things are ticking in the back of your fucking head, because the day that it happens, if you're not ready, you're gonna have a bad time. You might even lose your job for a couple of days or whatever. You might even lose your job, because if you can't get out of the house because your fucking car broke down and the closest mechanic is half an hour away, you like half an hour driving 80 miles an hour, by the way. Literally the closest mechanic is either a 20-minute drive through rural or a half an hour drive at 80 miles an hour like down the highway. And so, you know, sure, you can do a 20-minute rule if you want, but that means stop signs every single fucking block, basically, driving 25 miles an hour. It sucks. It's boring. It takes forever. And that's how living rule is. You're either using the highway or you're using the frontage road. And trust me, that's all part of it too. There's all this stuff that you don't know when you do it. Now, the passion of learning is very interesting. But I don't suggest you start doing it in this style. I suggest you do it with a metal husk around your body, like an RV or something like that. If you're using a tent, you're going to freeze to death in summer. You will freeze to death in summer if you are using a tent, trust me. Especially in some crazy place like Colorado where I did it. You will freeze to death in the summer. You know what I'm saying? It will drop to like 7 degrees below on a July 19th, on a cold night when there was rain for some reason. And you will freeze to death in July because you fucking slept in a tent in July in Colorado on a night when it got cold. In July, you'll freeze to death. You're thinking about January. I'm thinking about July because you live in a state like Colorado or Illinois or something like that. You're planning to live off grid, like off in the boonies or something like that. Trust me, you will freeze to death in July if you don't have some way to address that. Extra propane, electric blankets, solar, something. You will freeze to death in July. I guarantee it. It doesn't happen all that often because people help each other. But that is the risk that you run. And that's what happened to Christopher McCandless.
Brooke and I got married in the fall of 1998.
And sure, I like Christopher McCandless as much as the next person, but I still think, and I don't mean to disparage the death like this or speak ill or make the victims of his family and the people who love him and miss him and all that, like make them feel bad. That is not the goal here. But the man was a fucking idiot who had no right being out there. He had no right to be out there. And any survivalist would tell you, the man was a goddamn idiot. He was cutting off Bear Grylls type survival on a fucking Paul, a Hatchet, like Paul, who wrote Hatchet? Paul wrote Hatchet. Who's the author, right? The author of Hatchet, right? He was Gary Paulson, right? He was on a Gary Paulson tip on a Bear Grylls reality, and he sure enough did fucking freeze to death in July. He sure enough did. He choked to death on poisonous berries and froze to death in July. This could happen to you if you think you're going off the grid without the experience to do it or the help or the support. This can and will happen to you. And I'm going to stop the rant here.
Went to Sitka, Alaska, where we got a job as caretaker.
Do not go to Alaska and go off grid. Do not do that without a giant family, friends, support, and 6 figures. Do not do that. You will die. You will freeze to death in July. Do not do that.
We both worked in town, but we lived in the campground. We took showers at the harbor. We did our laundry.
I'm saying you can do it. I'm not doubting you. I believe in your ability to do it. I believe in most humans' ability, their capability of doing it. I'm not doubting Thomas. I'm not falling on the negative Nelly side of this. I believe fundamentally that anybody can do this. I just don't think you should try until you are ready and have the backup and the parachute, the parachute escape plan first. You don't Christopher McCandless your ass out there like a tramp and just hope to survive. You fucking hedge the bets and you bring the water, the food, the dogs, the guns, and the metal shell with you when you go. And so most people should not move to Alaska and try to be Alaska wilder people. You'd be surprised what happened to those people, and they had a goddamn backing of a full-blown expensive billion-dollar television station who was willing to save them from their problems and shit, and they still failed. Do not try to do this stuff if you haven't been doing it all your life. And any survivalist will tell you, do not try and do this. If you do not go into the forest without a backpack full of ramen, a gun to defend the ramen, and if you and honestly, and the water to cook the ramen already with you in a big fucking container or something, but you better be hiking for a day. Don't be going out there. And if you are going out there, I want you to show me visible fucking proof that you know what the mushrooms of the area will do to you. And do not eat the mushrooms when you inevitably starve to death. And if you do eat the mushrooms, tell me what they are. This goes for Colorado especially. Especially. Do not go live in Colorado and tramp around the fucking mountains if you don't know what the fucking mushrooms are. Don't come to my fucking land and fuck up and die. Please do not do that.
Bathroom, we had the Forest Service outhouses. When we
Nice,
left
which is a
civilian-
luxury. I'm talking that is a luxury to most people living off the grid, homeless or otherwise. Having a, and by the way, I dated a girl from Dillingham, fucking beautiful.
going to the Aleutian
And
Islands
Bristol Bay. I'm sorry, it was right next to Dillingham, Bristol Bay. Fucking beautiful.
for 7.5
I miss her so bad. She's dead from heroin.
months to be caretakers of this homestead. This place is called the Stonewall.
Did you know that when you go out to Alaska, like probably 35% of them are on black tar heroin? It's a terrible problem with the tribes out there. It's a terrible problem with the people in the cities. And so when you are surrounded by 35% of the populace being junkies, you're probably going to need guns. Just saying.
After a giant
Especially
rock
if you got a family.
outcropping that's right in that area. Now, this homestead had electrical power, but it was generated from hydroelectric power. There was a small...
Am I pro-gun? Yes. Am I pro-gun laws? Yes. Am I anti-gun violence? Yes. Am I anti-people having a pistol in every home? Yes. And all these things about guns. Trust me, I'm about as middle of the road as you can get about guns. More middle than most Americans. I actually really believe in gun rights. You know what I'm saying? I really do. And it's specifically because if you go out to the fucking boonies, you go around a bunch of junkies who haven't had a fix in 4 days, and you have money and assets and resources and a beautiful family and all this, something bad might happen and you should have guns. Am I pro-gun? Yes. Am I anti-gun? Yes. And I'm particularly pro-gun because I know what happens if you go around a bunch of fucking idiots with money. You're going to get robbed.
of the mountain with a dam in it.
Happened to me when I was homeless. It'll happen to you when you try to go off grid. You will get robbed if you go around a bunch of desperate fucking idiots with money. And that's generally what you need to do when you go off grid. So you're very quiet, you're very hidden, you've got camouflage, you don't go in and out in a boat every day, you don't go make it obvious to everybody that you live there, you're quiet, you've got an online life with your solar and all this, and you make your upkeep going in, and when you go in and out, you do it once or twice a month like I do, and you don't make a lot of waves or motion that you're there, or I mean it's half an hour until the cop reaches you. So what's to stop them from taking your shit? This is a problem in rural areas that they don't talk about. Theft is really bad in rural areas because it takes half an hour for a cop to get there. You ever considered that? That is something you should know when you get into it.
In a 4-inch PVC pipe.
Yep. PVC pipes will save your life. I would not be willing to do rural living without either half an hour access to some kind of Home Depot where you can get PVC piping, or just a closet full of PVC piping. There's all this stuff you must have: paracord, PVC piping, duct tape, epoxy, water, food, transportation, gasoline, some mechanic skills, some wiring skills. There's all this stuff that you probably don't have because you lived in the city your whole life. Please do not come to my world without the preparation. Please do not do it. You know, all my friends would say the same. I know I sound like a snobby fucking Colorado mountaineer guy, and I'm not even a snobby mountaineer. I can count on both hands how many times I've gone camping in the Colorado Rockies. It's less than 10, you know, but I've done it. I've done it like 7 times, and you know, like and stayed there for weeks. And I'm not as bad as most people when it comes to this off-grid shit. I'm really not. I got a lot of survival skills and knowledge. I know how to set traps and fish in the wild and all this other shit. But those are skills that I never ever had to use because I lived in the city my whole life. When you do have to use them, you definitely have to have the work ethic. When you do finally use those skills that you learned, you must have a work ethic, and the city does not breed that in the average modern male. It does not. You get most of your food from delivery or drive-through or grocery stores. You get most of your water through a faucet or a tap. You get most of your power through fucking other people's fucking plugs or your own home. You get most of your transportation from your own car. You get most of, you know, all these things. You are coddled. You got a light rail nearby. You're lucky. It's just, you know, that stuff isn't there when you're 30 minutes from the closest town. That stuff is just not there. What do you do when it's not there?
Water wheel. So the pressurized water from the gravity.
Like, okay, one of my best friends, his job is a Colorado Rockies tour guide, and in the summer he teaches fast water rafting, or whatever they call that, creek water rafting, whatever it is. He's literally a raft teach. You know, he teaches the Colorado, like riding boats on the Colorado Rapids and stuff. He's literally a mountain man, and he was absolutely proud to roll with me. He knew that I have the skills. I know it. He had no problem. He had been camping all his life. He had no problem rolling with me. We did go camping like 7 times or something like that. I had the knowledge. I had the skills. He wouldn't have gone. He told me, first time we ever went, he was like, if I didn't feel that you weren't capable of this, I would absolutely say no to you. And I was like, teach me more about camping in the mountains. And he was like, no problem, buddy. He loves it when people ask him. He loves it when people ask him to do that. It's what he wants people to ask him to do. So I was like, teach me how to live in the mountains, because it might happen when the zombie apocalypse occurs. And he was like, sure, buddy, no problem. And, you know, he was ecstatic to do so. And you know, and so there we are. Hello, number 2. I'm sorry I missed your chat somehow. Apparently it reset my, oh yeah, how long ago was that? I'm sorry, that was like half an hour ago. I'm so sorry. Hello, number 2. I haven't checked the stream in a minute, and apparently it has reset while I was sleeping. It's got a fucking mind of its own with the registry. It can't seem to save any settings, so we're gonna go back and see if we can change the notification so I can actually hear you talk. I'm so sorry. I do not mean to. I keep missing your shit every day because as you can see, it keeps reducing the sound volume to 3/4 because it's too incompetent to fucking like register a setting with Windows, and Windows is too incompetent to register it, so it's resetting every time I restart the program or restart my computer. And so I missed your first chat, and I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something about that, but they don't make a program that works. Any program, maybe Tetris, you know.
So you actually.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about this. Don't go like unless you've been camping in the Rockies or something like that, like 7 times for week-long trips or more. Do not go flying off to off-grid. Just don't go do that. It is frankly dangerous. It killed the last famous person to do it. You know,
To how much water came down the side
killed an author
of the hill. We had to watch the inverter. We had to top off the batteries. We had to keep an eye on maintaining the system for 7.5 months.
Yep.
And when the water got really low, when it was really cold, we ran out of electricity completely. Believe it or not, this homestead was heated with wood. We would go out and find drift logs that came from...
We have a whole stack of wood in the back of the shed, and we don't use it, thank God, but it's there. You know what I'm saying? You better get used to chopping wood and shit like that. It's a lot more work than you think.
Who knows where around the world. And we would hook onto these drift logs, pull them back to the homestead with a boat, and then cut them up, split them, and stack them. It's very windy, and the wood dried out fairly quick. Now, the wood stove in this house wasn't really used to heat the house. It had a water jacket.
It's not giving notifications at all. This program is broken or some such. It is completely not giving notifications at all. Piece of shit. What do you... I mean... Let's go... What? Oh, that's maybe why. Okay, good. There we go. A little better.
Get around it. And it was plumbed into a 500-gallon tank of water. You'd burn that stove hot for 5 hours, and it would heat up that 500-gallon tank. And for about a week, it would keep the house pretty decent. We did have a flush toilet because the entire water system in this house came off that creek. It was all pressurized because of gravity. Pretty interesting off-grid setup. We learned a lot that winter about off-grid systems. In the spring of 2000, we ended up back in Fairbanks, where we rented a small off-grid cabin. Then in the spring of 2001, we bought this...
Which is the way to go. If you're going off-grid, go rent a cabin. Trust me. That's the way to go. Have yourself a great old time, and you're not going to starve to death or any of that stuff, and have a car and a cabin. Have a good old time. Live there for a couple of years. Rent a cabin. Cabins are probably reasonable. Probably about the same as the rent in the city, I'd say.
2-acre piece of property north of Fairbanks, Alaska. This is the first piece of raw land Brooke and I ever bought. You could see that somebody had already tried to do something with it. They had a pen, maybe a horse or two, who knows. Now, this property did have electricity, so technically it was not truly off-grid. But because of the frozen soil conditions...
My God, she's beautiful. He struck the lottery. If she's willing to do all that shit, keep her.
Question. And water in this area is about 200 feet
She's
deep,
keeper.
and you're not guaranteed good water. So we were going to build a dry cabin, which means you
That's like finding an MMO girl. Yeah, right.
haul your water. You have a 5-gallon bucket under your sink. When it fills up after washing dishes,
Shit
you
doesn't
take the
exist.
5-gallon bucket outside and empty it. We also had a small vault. We started with a 55-gallon drum, which was for our outhouse. You couldn't really have just a pit type of an outhouse in this soil conditions because the ground was frozen. As soon as you dig a hole in the ground, it thaws out and then just turns into a mud bog. Definitely not what you want for an outhouse. Now this cabin was 12 foot by 12 foot. It was built from all the logs that were already on the property. And even though this cabin wasn't 100% off-grid, it was partially off-grid. We also heated with wood, which is the only thing that makes sense in this type of an environment. You have a lot of fuel readily available. All you need to do is cut it, stick it in the stove, and burn it. Now this property was about 10 miles outside of Fairbanks, so it was a short drive to get into town. Now you can't do this 10 miles outside of most cities because it's completely unconventional. But in Fairbanks, you know, nobody batted an eye. Dry cabins just like this were pretty much the norm anywhere that there was questionable land. By the time we were done with this cabin, we had about $3,000 into the build. All the lumber in this cabin was rough cut, so it was all bought at a discount from a local mill. The roofing, the metal on the roof, the wood stove, all of those things we had to buy. Now Fairbanks, Alaska has a waste management system where there's a sites called transfer sites. It's a parking lot with dumpsters all the way around the parking lot. The windows in this cabin all came from the dump, or the transfer site. So did the sink, so did the countertop. Whatever we could find for building materials that was useful, usable, and free, we picked it up and incorporated it into this cabin. We lived here for 2.5 years until our daughter was born in the spring of 2003. When I say 2.5 years, the three of us lived in this cabin until Christmas of that year. And the time between our daughter's birth and moving out of this cabin, we spent all that time building our second cabin. The 2.5 years we spent in this cabin were fantastic. It was a very free way of living and extremely affordable. But once it was more than just Brooke and myself, we needed a bigger place. So in the summer of 2003, we started building our second cabin. The idea was 1,000 square foot cabin, 500 foot on the bottom, 500 foot on the upper story. And take a look at this foundation. It's concrete pads with little concrete piers on top. The idea is, if you're building on permafrost, you need to be able to adjust the foundation. If one area heaves, you can take a few shims off the top of the post. If it sinks, you can add a few. Now we bought the logs for our second cabin. I think at that point in time it was about $2.50 a foot. You could bank on it being 2 or 3 times that today, because this was a while back. My brother Ryan came up that summer to help. My brother Ryan and I and our friend John Cassidy poured concrete all summer as a 3-man
Not
crew.
John Cassidy.
And whenever we had downtime, we worked on this cabin, and I kept the guys busy. When we got to the second story, you can see we slid the logs up 2x4s, and then we would stage all of our logs on the second story floor. Now this cabin had the same issues that the first cabin has. It was built on permafrost, so it needed a foundation that could be adjustable. That's why you see all those concrete piers. But this place did have electricity just like the first cabin, but of course no running water, no indoor plumbing, so it's technically semi-off-grid. We lived in that cabin from Christmas of 2003 until August of 2006. By then our son was born. We had bought a property in Delta Junction, Alaska, about 100 miles southeast of Fairbanks, and we decided to go down and build a homestead on that property. So in August of 2006, we set off on a completely new adventure, building a new homestead in a new
I can't
place.
spend that kind of
We
money.
sold these 2 cabins. Now starting over was not a picnic, I'll tell you that. We lived in this
spend
little
that
tiny
money.
camper until we built a garage. And then we
Kind of.
kitted the garage out as a house and lived in the garage
I
until we
don't
built
need
a
this
bigger
shit,
cabin.
really.
But this area in
I
Delta,
mean, it's nice.
it did have good water, and it wasn't that far down. So running water was actually going to be an option for the first time
I'll take
in
that one.
years.
That's cheap enough.
This was about the time things went from being filmed to digital, and we don't have a ton of pictures of this garage, but we lived in this garage until we got our next house built. Let's talk about that. I started this log cabin build on our Delta property in the spring of 2008. All the time we were living in the garage, we hauled our water, and we had an outhouse that we used, and that was our complete plumbing and water system. We would get water from about 2 miles down the road at a public well. But this cabin was actually
Public
going to
well.
be a conventional home. It was going to have running water, electricity, and everything.
I don't know
Now, we
there's
lived
public
on this
wells.
property
That's
for
cool.
6 years, from 2006 to 2012. The shop/garage cost us about $20,000 to build, and the big house here cost
I
about
like this guy.
$50,000 to build. But we had the cash on hand, and it was totally doable because we started small with a 12 by 12 cabin back in Fairbanks. We built as we could afford it. We put money into materials. We had 100% equity from day one, and that made all the difference. That's why we could have a place like this without going into debt.
Yep, that's how I did it too. I like saved up for 3 years
The
and
asteroid
everything
is
I had,
depleted.
and we just got it all in a lump sum, and then I like put it all into my home, all into it, every last dollar. We escaped with no debt. Basically, right at the end, we were like, yeah, we hit exactly the budget. You know, it was quite amazing, really. I thought it was going to cost me like 10 grand that I didn't have. I went into that with reservations like that with my mother. I was like, there's no way this doesn't cost like an extra 10 grand that we can't see. And she was like, no, I think we're good. And I was like, all right.
In 2012, we sold that property and we bought an old farmstead in northern Michigan. We could pay cash for this because, of course, we had 100% equity in the previous property. Now, the old farm has running water and indoor plumbing, so this is kind of the tail end of our first chapter of off-grid living.
See, this is an interesting thing. You spend all your time working to fix up off-the-grid places until they're essentially set up to live forever, and then you sell them. And that's actually an interesting business, but it still would be a lot of work, a full-time job. It would be a full-time job, but that's their dream, and frankly, I respect it. I think if I had a family, I would not mind chasing a dream like that, where we take the equity in the current home and we use that to, to finance another home, fix up that home for grid living, sell it once it's like perfectly ready for somebody to live there forever. You just teach them how to do it, and that's it. And you could have a business doing that very well, It would be hard to sell the homes, but I don't know how hard it would be. I think sooner or later you just sit there for 20 years and you wait till you probably do like hire a real estate agent, I would imagine. So just watch the value of the home and check in like once a week and just see if it's an incredibly good time to buy. Or I'm sorry, to sell. And then they call you up and they say, we have an offer for $900,000 for this home that you bought for $540,000. And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, they like the idea of the off-grid thing, but they want you to teach them. Yeah, I'll teach them, no problem. And and then you find a motivated buyer, and that would be hard to do, and it would take some 20 years and stuff. But it is something I could do once my parents pass. They are too scared. I think they're too financially skittish to ever do something like that. But I would actually, I think, mortgage this home and use it to buy some other piece of crap and fix it up and sell it. I think that's how you could essentially sit around and, I mean, it would be hard to, I don't know, maybe you would need to find like an easier racket, but yeah.
It didn't last very long.
It's a lot of work. The real daunting part of it is it's a lot of work. They don't have to go to some job every day, him or his wife, or their kids really. They just have to make sure that the current home that they're living in is constantly being fixed and upgraded and looking better, to the point where you leave it and it feels like a down home and country thing, like you could put in a magazine or whatever, and then you leave and you take the equity from selling that one and you go invest in another one, and sooner or later you probably would end up with like more than you could sell. But it would take a long time. It would take like 50 years. It's not the worst dream, It would take a long time. But It's not the worst dream. My parents' generation were too skittish, I think, to do stuff like this. They just wanted to be homeowners. They were too scared to leverage their own homes. I'm not scared to do it because I have a home. If I had two homes, I would leverage one. You know, it's funny. If my parents were to pass, there's really nothing I would have to do except hire some laborers to empty out the rooms that aren't being used. If my parents were to pass, it's so terrible to think of it that way. But I mean, and all I would have to do was bring in a security consultant, like cyber. Well, I mean, they have good security, but I want Airbnb security and like monitoring, right? I want security and monitoring. We have monitoring if there's a problem, but I want monitoring all the time. And I want to Airbnb my parents' house, and that would be quite a few thousand a year. It would definitely make a sustainable income for me, and it would be a fitting thing for me to do with the house. And it's 50 meters away, and I tell them, you know, I live down the slope. You know, I live down the slope in a different house. You'll never see me. I'll never see you. If you know, and I want to Airbnb out that house of theirs. I could make a fucking killing. She made it so classy and so beautiful. I'd have to replace the couch, but everything in it, even the queen size bed, is fucking wonderful. Everything in it. She totally redid it perfectly, and I want to take that. I want to take my parents' legacy and use it to make a sustainable income for me for the rest of my life, because they were allowed to do what they wanted to do. I had a felony at the age of 17. I mean, it's a deferred, adjudicated, sealed record felony, so it's not like on my record. But I caught my first felony at 17 just for drug possession, and I did not have the options they had at all. Their generation was allowed to do cocaine and weed and marijuana and all that shit for like 20 years. And sure, they had tickets, but they didn't get thrown in jail till their whole generation could do that for 15 or 20 years before they ever saw jail time for marijuana. But by like 1975, 1978, you had your first case of
The asteroid
you know,
is
the
depleted.
Beatles singing Free John, what's his name? Free John Brown or something like that. I forget.
The asteroid is
For
depleted.
marijuana possession and stuff. But they went after me when I was 17. They went after me for felony when I was 17 for possession of ecstasy. And it just got worse there. I never would have had the equity. I never was able to get a credit card. I never was able to get a loan. The only business I ever did was with drug dealers because they were the only people who would ever work with me. And this all happened like this. I reached this state before I was legally an adult. I reached that state before I was legally an adult. And so I look at that as essentially serfdom and the country crippling me and false assault charges and lawyer fees and all this shit, paying rent, hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent my whole life and all this. And I just like, I don't mind now. I do not mind now the idea of living off of my parents' legacy if that's what's necessary for me to do it. I just want some chance at being a normal person and having some kind of normal life. You know, and I reached it now. I've had it for 2 years. I've never had it before, but I reached it now, and I do not mind leveraging my parents' legacy to take that into some kind of not disposable, but like some kind of sustainable income. Not disposable, but sustainable income where I can do nice things like go to Friday night. When my parents are dead, I will have no one left, and I will go seeking people, but it will take some time, probably another 10 or 20 years. I do not seek people right now. Eventually, I'll be lonely, but it'll take some decades. I think. I don't think I'm gonna be lonely anytime soon. Not for a long time. So I think about it like, okay, when they're gone, I Airbnb out their place and I security up the motherfucking place and I run a fucking battery of televisions on the sidewall that shows me every inch of that property, on the outside, not the inside. And then when they're in there, I don't know what they're doing, but when they're out, you know, I can definitely track. And if they're throwing a party or something, I live right here. Like, don't try to throw a party, don't be disrespectful or anything, because I live 50 meters away. I will see on the cameras if people show up or anything like that. I'll leave it right in the morning for Airbnb, and I'll Airbnb that house out. And that was the solution I was looking for. I've been very worried about, like, say if like, for instance, my mother, she is 88 and she's very cognizant and very good, and she's still driving, but there will be this point where she won't be able to drive anymore, and I'll have to probably start running the errands for them, which is fucking pain in the fucking ass. Either that or we'll probably have to pay for delivery is what'll happen, but that'll take a lot of stress off her, which is good. But when they're gone, I will leverage a sustainable income, because the government only sends me $7,000 a year. That is not enough. That does not pay the bills. Not entirely. We're in debt, kind of. I mean, we're not in debt, but we're not gaining any money. We're not making a living off of the government or whatever. It's like basically a dying. It's like making a dying. So in order to get like at that point, when I Airbnb the house, I will go off of disability and I will live off of that income, because it'll be greater. It'll probably be like 25 grand a year, something like that. And yeah, and I'll live off that as opposed to, you know, disability income. And I can live in this like place, and I'll never leave, and I'll view the house as like my hotel that I own. And it's a nice place. It's got 3 bedrooms. It'll sell. You know, not sell, but it'll Airbnb. It's a double wide. But when you step in the home, you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. You know, it's like a rich person's house. It's beautiful. It's refurnished and all this stuff. It's tastefully decorated, and it's perfect. It's like a slice of time of my mother's like decoration skill. And it's not like I want this now. I don't even want this to happen, honestly. I don't want any of this to happen, but if it ever does, this is my contingency plan for it. And that's what I will live off. I will be a trailer park supervisor, essentially. Another thing I can do is I can say I could take that income and in any inheritance. I don't know what my inheritance will be, but if I have some inheritance, you know, I don't talk to them about the will, and I don't want to know, but if I have any inheritance at all, like say some 30 grand or something like that, I will invest in another trailer and put it out there on the fucking in the street, or I'm sorry, in our driveway, and buy like a Airstream or something like that, and set it up professionally and have it be really good. And I'll be like, yeah, I can fit up to 5 people 5 people or 6 with 6 or 7 with a family comfortably, and make it a fucking business and live off it comfortably for the rest of my life, like a good landowner should. And that way I don't ever have to worry about. I'd rather be a landlord and be the person fucking somebody doing Airbnb or renting out, right? I'd be a landlord, I guess. I'd rather be a landlord and live as these fucking savage assholes have, than living off of 7 grand and struggling to get by and not knowing where to get beer money at, you know. As I think about this stuff all the time, I'm like, the future is cold for me. One with no humans, one with like no hope. I have hope, excuse me. It's one with hope, but I don't have a lot of hope for the country or what's going to happen. But I do have faith that I'll be okay. And that's weird, you know? So, you know, that's where I feel about all this stuff. I think all the time about the future, which is something I was never able to do until I was 38 years old. I was not able to even remotely think about the future in any way or form. I was thinking about where am I going to sleep tonight most of my life. Where am I going to sleep tonight?
2014. In 2014, our friend Neil Eklund got a television show with the National Geographic Channel.
Notice how wholesome and healthy the kids look always when you look at Off the Grid, because they are. They're not lazy people. They go out. There's nothing to do, so they go out walking every day just to see the land, because there's nothing else to do but that. And you know, or read or whatever. And the kids always look like perfectly milk-fed, like Rocky Mountain kids to me, is because they are. And it's a really, really, really healthy way to raise kids, I would say. They need something to do all their lives while they're homeschooled or whatever. I would say like going off the grid is a fairly good situation for people who want to homeschool, I would say. I think they should go hand in hand, kind of.
and floating.
You can teach those kids a lot by how, by how to live off the grid, and what you teach them how to pay the taxes, teach them how to fill the car with gasoline, teach them how to fix the engine, teach them how to build a raft, teach them how to filter water and set up solar power, and learn with them anything that they don't know. And then, that's teaching them to be self-reliant. It's the old American dream modified now. Like, I want kids rather badly, but I think about all the time about the investment that it would take out of my own life. And I'm okay with not having them. I'm like, I don't know, I'm a selfish person. I like chasing my own shit.
Brooke and I had known Neil for 14 years, and she had worked on a previous
I am a very
log raft
selfish
with Neil.
person. That's something that I think all of my friends would say, whether to my face or behind my back. I think selfish is definitely like the one word they would use. So I'm a fairly selfish person. I do not mind taking my life and keeping it to only my own. My aunt kind of taught me how to be like this. I definitely took the cue from my aunt. I know where I got this from. And and I really like how she lives, and I respect it, and I'm jealous of her. I live like her. If you were to compare my house to my aunt's house, you're gonna see probably the same exact thing. Yeah, I probably have a bigger TV because I'm more of a tech person than her. She's more of a television person, but like my house is so much like my aunt's, it's not funny. And it even has her decorations in it, her stained glass that she does, and it's just kind of funny, like I'm okay with that lifestyle, but I want marijuana. I want to be able to go gamble once a month at the Indian casino or I'm sorry, Native American casino that's down the street from me, just once a month for like $60. I want to have some fun. I never ever leave the house, and that fucking sucks. I haven't taken a vacation ever in my life. I'm sorry, that's not true. No, I've never taken a vacation in my life. I moved to Hawaii, to Lahaina, and worked in a hotel, and you could call that a vacation because I did things over that year and 7 month period, like swim in the coral reef and do stuff like a vacation would, like swimming and lying on the beach and shit. I guess you could call me working 40 hours a week as vacation in Lahaina, Hawaii. But I mean, I've never taken a vacation in my life, and to me, a vacation is driving down to the Native American casino, getting stoned, and blowing some money on a blackjack table. That's like a vacation to me. I have worked all my life. I'm not a lazy person. Not really. Not really. It was either for survival or for work, one or the other. So I think all the time about how I'm 40 years old and I've never taken a vacation, and I worked for 23 of those years full time. And I just don't know why it was so different. My life was so different. I did all the things that everybody else did, but I never had a vacation. I never had a wife. I never had kids. I had drug addictions that other people wouldn't have. I'm just crazy, I guess. I'm just not like other people. I'm just not like them. I wanted all these things that a normal person craves for, that it's honestly hard not to get, but they weren't there for me. Those things were not there. I mean, the love was there for me and the women, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like normalcy was not. I crave. They talk about like normies and like on the internet, like with disdain, like, oh, it's a normie or whatever. Like that's a bad thing. I spent all my life craving normalcy, craving it. I just did not have it. I've been expelled from schools, chased by pigs in high-speed chases, addicted to heroin, addicted to meth, high fucking echelons, world-class video game raider in World of Warcraft, and all this other shit, ran a clan, all this other stuff, and it's just weird. It's like, lead singer in a band for 8 years. I didn't want all that. I just had it. And now I crave normalcy. I crave having a drink every night like a normal human being, but I'm scared it'll lead to alcoholism because I've been ingrained to believe that if you drink every day, you're an alcoholic, and I can't even let myself relax and let myself have a beer every day like a normal human being without thinking that I'm sliding through my fucking my addictions and relapsing or something like that. I can't even feel like a normal person. I can't go down to the casino and play the VLTs like a normal person or whatever, or go on down to Friday Night Magic without feeling like I'm sacrificing my career or sliding down the relapse slope or becoming in a commitment that I'm not willing to make because my job takes up all my time. I'm scared to date. I'm scared to go to bars. I'm scared to have a normal life. Normalcy to me is this far away dream that I'm going to reach in 20 years. And I really feel that way. I'm like when my life is what I want it to be with all the normalcy that I crave, it'll take 20 years. My parents will be dead. Like, I mean, it's gonna take 20 years. It's 20 years from now. I will be 60 when I finally reach the normalcy that most, I would say, 19-year-old people reach, 19 to 25. By the time I'm 60, I will have reached normalcy. I'm getting a lot more of it now at the age of 40. But by the time I actually have the life that I actually want, that I consider normal, that I had the entire time I was out in the cold, on the cold streets and everything, like just freedom. You know, it will be 20 years before I see the freedom that before I even consider myself a full-blown adult. And that is just not normal. That is Asperger's. That is arrested development. It is learning disabilities. It is drug addictions and injuries and brain damage. Like, you know, it is not normal. You know, so I dream about these things that these people consider normal, like maybe flipping up houses and selling them with their kids or whatever. That shit's so far from a fucking possibility for me and has been since I was 17 years old that, like, you know, like okay, my favorite No Doubt song is called Simple Kind of Life, and she states it pretty well. Like you know, like No Doubt, that's a good song. She said it pretty well. She's not like she's more like me than I am like you, I think. Like, she's a lot more like me than I am like you. It's kind of crazy. It's like, for a long time I was in love, and not only in love, I was obsessed, right? I would say it's true. I don't even talk to the person anymore, and I don't want to really, with a friendship that no one else could touch, and it didn't work out, and I'm covered in shells, which means to me, like, I've been basically this, like, there's like, and the battle's over, and there's nothing but shell casings left, and everybody's dead, and all I wanted was the simple things, a simple kind of life, and all I needed was a simple wife or a simple woman, so I could be a husband or whatever, and I'm so ashamed. I've been so mean, and I don't know how it got to this point. And oh, I was always the one with all the love to give, and I was. And then you came along, and I'm hunting you down, and I use my absence from you as some kind of weapon, because I don't have any other way to get you to tell me who and what you are anymore, or who I fell in love with. And like a sick domestic abuser looking for a fight, all I wanted was the simple things, a simple kind of life, right? I was like a sick domestic abuser with all the drugs and the craziness. And I was just looking for a fight, essentially. I was like looking for a fight. I will simply block the person. I don't care. Even if I love them, I don't care. I'm looking for a fight. I'm looking for a fight with these people, with my friends, with the woman that I love, with the government, with the society. I'm still angry. I did not get over it. I have gotten closure, and I'm a much less angry person. But I did not get over the sick domestic abuser, angry, looking for a fight of victimhood, PTSD, and being the victim of severe physical abuse and being beaten bloody several times, you know? If we met tomorrow for the very first time, would it start all over again? No. And that's the problem. That's why I don't trust anybody. Would I try to make you mine? The answer is no. The answer is no. I would not try again. No. After knowing who I am, what I've become now, the answer is no. I cannot have a simple kind of life. It is too late now. I would not try to have those things again, ever again. I don't believe Gwen Stefani should. You know, would I try to make that girl mine again? The answer is no. I would not have chased her. After knowing what I know now and what my life is now, the answer is no. I cannot have a simple life. A simple life to me is you know what a simple life to me is? Waking up on a Friday single. Wake up in my bed at like 11:30 in the morning. Have a beer in the morning, a nice have a nice Voodoo Ranger. Go on down to the casino at 5 p.m., have a slice of pizza and a nice screwdriver or something, play the VLTs for like an hour and either win or lose $60. I don't carry more than $60 in the casino, so the gambling never gets out of hold, and I only do it like once or twice a month. And then I go to like, I go home. And at home, I've got like 2 cats and a big giant projection television screen with 7.1 surround or whatever. And or what I mean, really just this. So I mean, this situation, I come home to the fifth wheel, and I am completely free. No one shames me for doing drugs. I can smoke meth if I want to or whatever, though I don't because I'm 60 and I just can't do it to my heart or whatever. And no one judges me if I get high. Nobody cares what I do. Nobody tries to arrest me. Nobody kicks me out of school or treats me like a fucking pariah, like I'm Jesus Christ on the fucking cross and I gotta be nailed to the fucking cross because I'm not like you. And I don't have to report to anyone, not my parents or anybody else, not the government. I'm completely independent. I'm my own man. My own counsel will I keep about anybody that I ever meet or have any kind of relationship with or anything. And I completely keep everything and everyone at bay with like this JK Rowling, totally fucking like, you know, divorced, you know, words from a Marilyn Manson song come to mind. Disassociative, right? Marilyn Manson wrote a pretty good song called Disassociative, right? My ideal life is completely disassociative from everybody else, and that is my life stream now. It is what I want. I can tell you what they say in space, that our Earth is too gray, but when the spirit is so digital, the body acts this way. And I mean, my real life is online now, and this is how the body acts. That world was killing me. The world with real love and real life and real people and a real city and real dreams and a job and a car and life, right? All that stuff, it was killing me. It's still killing me. Even having this many connections is killing me. The world was killing me, so I got disassociative, right? Now, he's speaking of cocaine. I'm talking about people. My drug is people, essentially. Always has been. My real drug is people. Always has been. The nervous system's down. The nervous system's down now. And I can never, and I know that I can never get out of here. And I know that I can't get out of this situation. And I don't want to explode in fear like a dead astronaut in space. And this is like a David Bowie, like disassociative cocaine life of, this album was called Mechanical Animal. I'm basically a mechanical animal now. And I can tell you what to say in space is that our Earth is too gray, that we don't have enough color in this world, and I have become too gray. I've become too much like everybody else and not enough like myself. So I just started basically disassociating from anybody who wouldn't offer me their love willingly without anything in return. And I know it sounds selfish because it is selfish. The only thing I want for people is their love without anything in return. No commitment, not being in their lives, not being in their fucking birthdays or their fucking holidays or all the traditions that I despise and cannot handle. None of their social situations that I'm good at but don't necessarily appreciate. And, you know, I can never get out of here. I don't want to explode in fear like a dead astronaut in space. Sometimes we walk like we were shot through our heads, my love, and I kind of do feel like that. I walk like I've been shot on the streets because that's essentially kind of what happened. We write our song in space like we're already dead and gone. And your world was killing me, and I'm disassociative, and I can never get out of here before I explode in fear like a dead astronaut in space. And that's how I feel. Like that's how I've gotten with it. It like the simple kind of life is this dream that I can live, but I can live the dream and I can become it. And I can think about going back to the people and letting their arms embrace me like John Lennon or something like that. But I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I don't even want that from my real friends that did the time in the real world for 40 years to be my real friends. I don't even want them anymore. And that sucks. Something happened. It's the brain damage. And it's like every day I try to make more and more like kind of forays into my own psychology and what caused this. I believe it is brain damage. They call it brain damage, right? They call it brain damage. I've heard this kind of stuff before. It's Eminem. It's brain damage, I think. It's probably brain damage, right? It's probably brain damage. He's convulsing. Go get the shocker. Go get the shocker. These are the results of 1,000 electric volts. a neck with balls. Nurse, we're losing him. Check the pulse. A kid who refused to respect adults. Wore spectacles with tape frames and a freckled nose. A corny looking white boy, scrawny and always ornery. Cause I was always sick of brawny bullies picking on me. And I might snap one day just like that. I decided to strike back and flatten every tire on the bike rack. My first day in junior high, this kid said, it's you and I at 3 o'clock sharp. This afternoon you die. I looked at my watch. It was 1:20. I already gave you my lunch money. What more do you want from me? He said, don't try to run from me. You'll just make it worse. My palms were sweating. I started to shake at first. Some told me try to fake a stomach ache. It works. I screamed out. My appendix feel like they could burst. Teacher, quick. I need a naked nurse. What's the matter? I don't know. My leg, it hurts. Leg. Oh, I thought you said it was your tummy. Oh, I mean, it is, but I also got a bum knee. Mr. Mathers, the fun and games are over. And just for that stunt, you're going to get some extra homework. But don't you want to give me after school detention? Nah, that bully wants to beat your ass and I'm going to let him. And that's what the cops did.